Okay, welcome to the shop. It is great to have y'all here. Excited to be sharing a restoration slash repair job on an old Hutch. I do want to say right off the bat, this video is sponsored by Thrive Market. More on that soon. Now, as a craftsman, I have just become a little bit obsessed with antiques because I love to analyze how they were made, to really dig in and see where the joints were done, the hand tool work. You know, these pieces that were built in the 1800s, 1700s by craftsmen who were very, very skilled. Obviously these pieces have lasted a long time because we still have them today. So as a modern day furniture maker, it is important for me to look at those and use them as a blueprint for my furniture, because my desire is for my furniture to last 100 years or more. So with this piece, we're going to dive in and you know, we're going to repair it because I want to bring it back to life. I want to honor whoever made it originally a long time ago. We got to start with the side panel, which is broken and fallen out of the case. So let's get that fixed and back in place. So starting off with a panel, what we've got here is a giant, basically, I call it a giant. It's a large Hutch, pretty old piece, I believe. I couldn't date this one, I don't know how, but I'm sure 1800s, maybe older. It's got one of the three panels on the side missing. You'll see it as we go. It makes more sense. And this is that missing panel. It's pretty broken up. As you can see, it's broken in two pieces and it's got several cracks. So we're starting right off the bat with trying to repair this panel, stabilizing these cracks, getting some epoxy in them, and we've got a pretty large piece missing out of the panel here, and that's going to show. You'll be able to see right into the Hutch. So we got to get that patched with a piece of wood. So I'm using some blue tape, taping over it, cutting it out to make a pattern of that, and then we're going to trace that over onto a piece of wood. And I've got an old oak barrel here that I think is a good match, good tight grain oak. So I'm going to chop it up and get my patch out of that. Now, I filmed this, you know, middle of the day. I was pretty tired, and you're about to see a really big mistake and scary. I think it's time for a break right off the bat. I'm just going to go get a snack, chill, and reset. That's why I'm thankful for today's sponsor, Thrive Market. Got me some good snacks here today. My wife and I both work full-time jobs, and fitting in grocery shopping can be very difficult. She manages all that. I don't deal with it, but she has been a customer of Thrive Market for several years now. We have been using their services for a long time, and her favorite part about Thrive Market is the Buy It Again feature. It's just a quick, efficient way to get the things that you need every month, like baking powder or baking soda or our taco seasoning for taco night. Can't beat that. They're an amazing go-to destination for healthy and delicious food. So you can swap out all that junk food for certified organic, healthy snacks, like these little Dig Pops right here. Now, instead of me trying to tell you about grocery shopping, because let's be honest, the food just shows up and I eat it. I don't know how it happens. I'm gonna eat one of these right here and kind of re-energize. This is an almond flour chocolate brownie. So I think we should talk to the boss to learn more about why we use Thrive Market.
I like all the different healthy options that they have. A lot of these things we don't even have at our grocery store, like these sprinkles. They ship for free, over 49 bucks, which is awesome. Lots of different healthy options. They try to avoid seed oils, like all these C8. I've never tried these grain-free puffs, but hoping they're good. They also do like really good coupons every now and then that just make their good prices even better. So I've actually never been disappointed with any of my Thrive Market purchases.
Now, the good news is Thrive Market is offering my viewers 30% off plus a free gift when you join Thrive Market. You just go to thrivemarket.com/Andy Rawls to receive that discount. If you're like me and you like to save money, you're a little bit strapped on time, and you like to eat good food, Thrive Market is the perfect option. You have to try it. There's no reason not to when you get 30% off. So I recommend go down in the description, click the link. I didn't tell Emily, but I'm stashing these in the shop because these are delicious. And again, a big thanks to Thrive Market for sponsoring the video. Let's get back to this restoration. Okay, so I'm re-energized. Those bars were delicious. Here we go. Back to doing this again. I'm leaving it as a whole long piece and not trying to cut a tiny little short piece. As you can tell, the throat to the bandsaw is a little bit worn out, so it sucked that piece right in, and it scared me pretty good. Moving to the little bandsaw, I'm going to cut out this little piece of waste as close as I can get it. You know, we're not going to get a perfect exact fit into this. Ouch. Ow. So I just stabbed my finger there. That did not feel good. This project's off to a bit of a rough start. Doing a little bit of shaving. See some blood there. So it's not, you're not building furniture if you're not bleeding. So you can kind of see the patch there. It's just dry fitted in its place, and we're gonna get it kind of glued in. I'm using the card scraper here to kind of clean off the old epoxy, and then I've tinted this epoxy with some sawdust, really fine sawdust that I get out of my dust collector, and I'm making a paste. The back side has got a huge void, so I'm just gonna fill it with the epoxy and let that epoxy work in around the cracks, so it'll all blend and look pretty dang good. Now we need to glue this panel back. A few passes with the hand plane are going to fine tune that glue joint, make sure we're in square, and then we're going to throw it in the clamps and get it all glued up. Just Type Bond 2. I will say, as I get more into restoration, I need to invest in high glue. I have a high glue pot. I used to use it for chair making all the time, but you can actually get liquid high glue now, and I need to. I don't think there's anything wrong with using Type Bond 2, but high glue is a pretty standard glue used back in the days. It's kind of good to stay with the same glue, I think. Getting all the panels out, we're going to clean everything really well. The bottom panel to this was in pretty rough shape, but the client has decided to leave it because we're kind of trying to not overspend on this, so they have kind of a budget. You see all the spider webs on that. So we're gonna fix parts that really need fixing, and some parts we're gonna leave, and that's just where we're at. And this bottom shelf is yep, he's gone. Got that little spider. This bottom shelf is one of those ones that is just gonna continue to be cracked. Yeah, it's okay. Giving it a good cleaning really brings out that quarter sawn oak. Look at that, it's pretty wood. It's interesting how they ran the grain widthwise instead of longwise. That's probably one of the reasons why they've got it cracked in half, I would guess. But we're just, we'll nail it back down, stabilize it, and it'll still work. Cleaning the whole frame of this thing. So really interesting construction. I cannot figure out what the craftsman was thinking when they built this piece. I'd recommend you go over to my Patreon and take a look at it because it's pretty weird the way they built it. Once that epoxy sets, there's just some hand carving work here to dial this patch in, make it fit where that raised panel comes in, that profile, using the gouge. And then my Lie-Nielsen, you might notice that Lie-Nielsen plane is shiny looking because Lie-Nielsen gave it what they call the spa treatment, which I really appreciate that. They fixed it up, got a new knob on it, and thanks, appreciate that, Lie-Nielsen. Mixing a custom stain. I've gotten really into mixing custom stains. I've gotten pretty good at it, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm basically just adding some dyes to a water-based stain base that I get from Target Coatings, and until I get kind of the color I want, and then we'll stain that little patch, blend it the best we can. I mean, you're never going to hide. I think the saying is from 5 feet away you shouldn't be able to see a repair job, but up close you should. That's a little bit off on the stain. I actually came back and changed it up a little bit and got it better. And you can see here it's a little darker and left a little bit on there. Getting the top off. Top was in really bad shape. Single board of pine, just bowed like crazy. And then I had to remove these are the drawer dividers. They're sawtooth drawer dividers. Very traditional way to do, I'm saying drawer dividers, adjustable shelving. Nowadays we use pins. Now, back in the days, they used those sawtooth. And you'll see more of these as we get through the video. Once this panel's dry, I'm just working on fitting it back into its old opening. Getting it where I want it. The bottom, that rail that holds it on the bottom, found another hole in the panel there, so we're gonna have to patch that one. Totally forgot about that. Same process we just went through. We're gonna cut it out on the bandsaw and make the best patch we can. Like I said, this piece was really interesting. I couldn't quite understand a lot of the construction on it, the way they built it. There was like patches all in it and parts that had been placed in weird ways. I honestly couldn't date it. They told me that it came from France. They got it at Round Top in Texas, which is a very popular antique destination. So there's that patch. So we just don't know a lot of details on it. I know it's old. It's definitely old. I mean, it could be 1700s, definitely 1800s. At this point, I'm contemplating whether or not I'm going to use that shelf, and I've decided nope, I'm going to make a new one. So I've got some 6/4 rift white oak left over from the desk build. We're going to resaw that right down the middle and make roughly about a 5/8 of an inch thick shelf when it's all said and done. You can see some pretty grain in there. Really nice looking stuff. Oh, never mind. I'm showing you how it's checked. So you resaw a board, you look inside, and look at that. It's got case hardening in it, and it's not usable. Totally forgot that happened. So I had to get a different board. On the outside, it looked totally fine. On the inside, it was bad. That happens a lot with oak. If it's dried too fast, the core dries slow, the outside dries really quick, and it case hardens and splits in the middle. So we discarded that piece, and we've got working on our glue joints here, and just, I could put dominoes in this to level it out, but honestly, I don't know if it's laziness or just don't want to do it. I just opt to stand on the boards, stand them and get them down flat on the clamp bar. Works pretty good, gets it close enough, and then I can run it through my wide belt, take about a 1/16 off the thickness and get it dialed in nice and flat. Here we are at the wide belt, sanding her down. I think I've got an 80 grit on there. It'll go pretty quick. Having the wide belt is just a huge time saver. It really helps. To the table saw, we're going to cut it to width. We're going to cut it to length. And now I've got a new toy. Let's get that to my kids. Hold on to that one. Now I've got to match up the notches on the inside of the case. There's a bunch of notches around different parts, so I'm just going to use the old shelf, trace it out, and cut it out. You might notice in the background, the first restoration project, that green trunk, I'm repairing it again because my kids broke the lid off already, and I had to fix it. So we're repairing that while we're repairing this. Adjusting my notches a little bit. The back panel vertical dividers there need to be notched out for so that can fit in. I'm not getting super dialed in for this, just getting the jigsaw out and cutting it as smooth and clean as I can. So there's a nice fit, a nice clean, good shelf, no cracks in it. The grain's running the proper way. We're not running the grain the wrong way on that. Now we can turn our attention to the upper section. This crown on top needed some serious love. It had been glued on before. You can see that white stuff is old glue. I don't know what kind of glue. It looked like caulk almost. I got to get all that scraped off, cleaned up, pulled them off, and then I am going to domino these together, which, yeah, again, maybe kind of breaking the rules, but I think it's good. I think it's going to make these nice and strong. They'll hold together much longer. They're also doweled in to the top of that panel. So between those dowels and the domino and clamping with glue, they're in there pretty good. Also, I have to say, getting the crown back in with the domino and the dowels was quite the challenge. Okay, so we need to address the situation down here. We see we have a broken groove on that. That's where that panel that we've got to replace broke out. So I'm not going to try to rebuild that rail. I'm going to build a little add-on piece that can capture the panel and just screw on to the side, and kind of has a rabbet on it, and it'll press against that panel as it screws to that rail there. And you can kind of see how this is working together. Make it nice out of some, it's kind of half rift, half quarter sawn there. We got a little bit of quarter sawn popping through. Use some nice brass screws. You don't want to go throwing construction screws in this. And there you have it. And you can see up top there's a little groove for that panel to drop into. All right, we're back to the other patch. I'm going to clean it up just like we did the first one. Make sure it blends in well. Do a little scraping, get some old glue off. And we also have to restain it. All right, and then we get to put the panel in. This is kind of an exciting part because I've been working on this panel for a while. This was the big thing that the client didn't think I could fix. They're like, I don't know how you're going to put that back in there. Here's how it's done. So this piece, I had to adjust the rabbet a little bit as I screw in that thing with the screws. It's actually pressing that panel forward and helping hold it in place. And you can see here it still moves. You see that gap there? This is before I made the adjustment. So here we are making that slight adjustment on the table saw. Just cutting a little bit more material off so that when you screw it, it presses more against that panel closes that gap and holds it in place much better. That looks good. I like that. Okay, with that done, I talked earlier about those sawtooth adjustable shelves. We need to make new pieces that go into the saw cutouts, the sawtooth cutouts. The ones that are originally there were like so short that they were barely resting on those sawtooths by like 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to make these long. They really should slide in with a pressure fit, nice and tight. I'm going to make the new ones out of oak and get those angles right and get it to where you can press it in and it stays right in place, and make sure it doesn't, because the old ones, I think they could have easily fallen out, and that's a bad thing. You don't want everything falling down. So these new ones will take care of that, and we can check width. I had a little bit of confusion on the shelves. I got mixed up because one of them didn't fit, so I had to switch it down to the bottom. It took me a little while to figure out which went where. I should have labeled those. I didn't remember to label things. You can see how that drops onto that little cleat that we just made, and you can put those anywhere along that sawtooth pattern there. So this is where I'm in confusion mode. I'm like, I got to get that shelf out, which was quite the task, because this doesn't come out without taking that cleat or not the cleat, but the little piece I added to hold the panel in place. I'm figuring that out now, even though I'm determined to try to get it out without removing that piece. It's not gonna happen. So the new shelf comes out, and then we can get the lower shelf out, move it to the top because it actually fit in the top, and then the one that was short, still, my brain, come on Andy, you can do it, there you go. The one that was short can go down low because of the way it's held in place, it can be a little short. Trying to get these shelves in and out was just a mess. It's like there's no easy way to do it. It was very confusing to me. And then the one that was down low, now we have to notch. So I just come confused. Something got off somewhere. Like I said, I should have labeled them, but it all worked out in the end. It obviously was down low. I just swapped them out to make it work. Because it's either that or I would have to make a whole new shelf, because that one of those top shelves was too short. And it's in. Okay, this is the one part of the build that I'm going to need help on, because this hinge is in bad shape. And these are really cool hardware, but it's actually torn out and just barely hanging on. So any use of this, I'm afraid that door is going to rip off, and I don't know. You can't replace these hinges. I mean, look at them. They're old and they're cool. So what's the solution? I don't know. You know, somebody out there who does metal work has to know a way to. It's very thin metal you'd have to repair. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in the end of the video. At this point right here, I've realized the top shelf is not going to work. I gave up on it. So I told the client, I said, look, I'm about 11 hours into this repair. We need a new top shelf. Yes or no? He said yes, do it. So we're back to gluing up more parts. Luckily I had some 4/4 rift white. It's a little bit wasteful because we're going to mill it down. That's not super wasteful. I guess we went down to about 3/4 thickness. So okay, here we are on the shaper. Rare shot of me in shorts there. Doesn't happen too often. Probably working on the weekend. We're using a bit there to do a little like rabbit scoop cut, back cut on that panel so it slides into that 1/4 inch groove on top. And it went in nicely. I cut it pretty loose so I didn't have to fight it too hard. And right there you saw me just mark what was sticking out. So we're gonna go to the table saw, cut that bit of waste off. And I had this genius idea. Well, I thought it was genius to make these slots for the top to be held down. It's just like a drawer bottom. So I can screw it down to the back and it allows for some wood movement. It worked pretty good. Staining. So custom stain, had to mix it up to match the color. So I stained each one and then I came back. I had some wipe on poly hanging out, left over from another job. Pretty easy just to wipe this stuff on, wipe it off. It gets a nice one coat finish. I didn't want it to get too I wanted to be a little bit dry on the finish so it matched the actual case itself, because the case really doesn't have any finish. Okay, here we are doing the final install, final bit of work on this. Just slide that top in, and I think it's a smart move to get a new top on this. It looks a lot better. Okay, so we've reached kind of our stopping point on this as far as we're going to take it. I think really honestly this wasn't a restoration, it was more of a repair. Let's get it back, multiple repairs. Let's get it back to a functioning state so that it can be used in their home. We opted not to put any finish on it. They like that kind of raw old look on the finish, so left it like that. I think it's fine. I would like to take the opportunity on this ending to ask y'all for help, and I think I've gotten great results in doing this in the past. The hinge, obviously it's in bad shape. I've mentioned this a few times in the video. I think if they're going to use this door consistently, eventually that's going to fail pretty quickly probably, because there's not a lot of metal holding that on. I don't really know the answer to fixing that. They would like to have it fixed. I don't think it's replaceable. I may be wrong, but if anybody out there in the YouTube world watching this has any suggestions, thoughts on how this thin metal can be repaired, we can bring this hinge back to a functioning state, please leave a comment. Let me know. I'd greatly appreciate it. Or if you know where I could source hinges, possibly you might find replacements. I think it's not likely, but maybe there's something out there. So I'm going to lean on y'all for help on that. I hope you enjoyed this repair/restoration video. I love doing these. I think it's a lot of fun. I want to do more for y'all. I think it means something to bring, at some point, someone put a lot of love and work into building this, and so it's still here. They did a great job, and I think as a craftsman, it's my duty to keep it alive and keep it going, and that's what we're doing, and I think it's going to serve the customers and clients well and hopefully last a lot longer. And in the process of doing all that, I actually learn a lot about how things are made, construction, how things were built back then, and hopefully I share that information on to y'all. Now, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, there's an in-depth overview of all the details of this over on my Patreon. There's also shop updates I do weekly that feature stuff like this and what I'm working on. A lot more in-depth footage over there. So that's a way you can support the channel and get bonus content if you want to learn a little bit more about this piece. As always, I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video.